All right, guys. So obviously the conversation today is around broadband and telehealth, telemedicine. But if you're like, if you're like me, you're not exactly sure what exactly that means. So I've read a couple of different articles recently about what telehealth is, but obviously, Rachel, Sue, I think, you guys are clearly the experts. So let's just start off the conversation about what is it? Let's define telehealth. Let's define telemedicine and get that kind of on the table right off the bat. So either one of you can jump in.
I'll jump in. So it's information and care at a distance. That's a really sort of simple and generic way of talking about telehealth. I can tell you it could be synchronous at the same time. Telephone is telehealth as well as what we're doing right now, video, but it can also be asynchronous where like secure email or monitoring data that you submit to your healthcare provider.
Yeah. I would add, Sue nailed it. I would add, I tend to think of it as anytime we're using technology to enhance or support the delivery of care. So also things like symptom trackers or apps on your phone, devices for in the home, things like that kind of also support that communication, to Sue's point about the synchronous and the asynchronous.
You guys everybody have the same opinion? Brian or Will, Brian, everybody think we good with the definition of what it is?
I've seen a few definitions, and what's interesting is it really breaks it down into ongoing healthcare and treatment. So if you think about splitting it up, it's as simple as an Apple Watch and the health app and the fact that it monitors the heart and whatnot. And then there's the actual interaction as Sue spoke of, where it's two-way, it's synchronous with a healthcare provider. So it's good. It's easy to call telehealth as overarching, covers everything, but there's multiple aspects of it. In fact, in rural America, we've been practicing telemedicine for years with radiology going to other hospitals and hospitals sharing radiologists and sending stuff back and forth. And that's why connectivity has always been important, not just during COVID.
I think one of the challenges is, terminology does matter, and it really depends on who's defining it. So I think healthcare by itself tends to focus on a very narrow sort of telehealth, remote monitoring or video, but I agree with Rachel, but I don't call that telehealth. I really refer to it as digital health. And connected care, because not all of it requires a healthcare clinician. Not all of it requires a health provider or a health system. People can do things on their own. They can do peer online support. They can use mobile apps. They can use devices on their own. Some of that data may interact with a healthcare professional, but not all of it needs to.
I think that's one of the interesting and fun things, to Sue's point, is there are about 5 different words for it. So depending on who you ask, it's telehealth, telemedicine, virtual care, digital health. I even see some blending between that and health IT, right? And some of what that is. So it's fun in that you can, and then also even at the government level, when we look at policy, there are differences of opinion in terms of the definition of telemedicine used by at the federal level with like Health and Human Services or Center for Medicaid and Medicare versus like at the state level. It's defined differently state by state. So it's still very much an area in development, which I like.
Well, I think it's right? Broadband, you have, the gig economy, gig access, you have high-speed internet, you have broadband, a lot of it's the same thing, but it's obviously emerging. It's growing, you know, leaps and bounds still, and just like telehealth, right? So we like to make it just as confusing as possible for others to enter the market.
Yep.
You know, Sue, I think, Sue, it was you who told me that the definition expands into the sort of consumer space too, of actually just interacting with the healthcare system or your doctor and having an online portal of some kind with your insurance company or your provider system, and setting appointments or accessing records and results, you know, from consumer to provider. And then, you know, if you're going in and getting some sort of care, they're sharing electronic medical records, and that's behind the scenes part of the whole thing too, right?